Previously on the Genesis account of Noah's Ark.
Oh, calm down, lad. No need for all the dramatic noises. You're not in some movie studio putting out the latest epically mindless explosion fest. No, you're in an idiot studio putting out the epically mindless dumbass fest. So, same thing, really. I mean, seriously, if the only way to get your audience to pay attention to you is with loud noises, maybe you aren't all that engaging. Am I right, guys?
We explored the possible shape and construction of Noah's Ark and what its realistic ability to experience and survive such a catastrophic worldwide flood would have been.
I think we all know the answer to that one. Fucking shit. Some extremely old dude building a boat on his own out of wood that wouldn't have the structural integrity to survive a light breeze, let alone the kind of forces that a global flood would have put on it. A global flood, mind, that galaxy wits like this would claim did the Grand Canyon in a few minutes flat. But somehow a little wooden tinker toy, nah, that would be absolutely fine because physics was off or something. But also, it totally would have survived without god magic, so never understood why these guys even bother with explanations when they are always wrong. And you can just say, a wizard did it anyway.
Join us now as we explore, where did all the water go?
I do have one guess. It all went into God's cavernous arsehole. Absolutely filled it. Cause he got convinced by some woo peddler to do a seawater enema in order to align his chakras or some such nonsense. But it does leak out sometimes, and that's where tsunamis come from. And why the ocean tastes just a little bit like shit.
As well as answer questions as to whether Noah's flood might have been a local rather than a worldwide event, as some have proposed.
Some? You mean everyone who knows anything about geology? Because yeah, we have proof, right, that floods happen, but I have had complete dipshits tell me, no. Noah's flood actually makes total sense, because there have been other big floods, and therefore flood stories in other cultures, therefore worldwide flood must have happened. Forgetting the teeny tiny problem that they didn't happen at the same time. And that's not to mention shit like this little fella that has been alive for 10,000 fucking years. You know, slightly longer ago than any claimed version of the Bible flood. And yet, there he is. Not destroyed by billions, in fact, millions of billions, of tons of water. Weird that.
In part 3 of the Genesis account of Noah's Ark.
Yeah, so I know we're starting part way in, but this is mostly I just kind of wanted to know, where did all the goddamn water go? Because what you got to understand is, it has to be somewhere, and unless it just disappeared, we should be able to find it. Now, I have heard quote-unquote explanations, which are completely absurd, of course, like all the water basically fucked off into space, and also where did the water come from being the firmament, you know, a great big impossible layer of sky water. So if you could just attempt to be a little less silly than either of those, that would be just great.
And the waters receded continually from the earth. At the end of the 150 days, the water decreased. Genesis 8, verse 3.
So it would look to me, from your book though, that they are saying that there was more water and then there was less water after the thing. You can't really explain that away, so where did it go? It had to go somewhere, as demonstrated by how all this whiskey is here. And wait, where the fuck is my drink? Oh, wait, never mind. It's in me.
Most people don't realize that where its highest mountains and lowest valleys evened out, there's enough water in today's oceans to cover the entire Earth to a depth of over 1.5 miles deep.
Wait. Are you telling me that if the Earth was perfectly spherical, then the Earth would be perfectly spherical? What the f*** do you mean most people don't realize? I think even a catastrophic moron would be able to figure out that if you turn this bowl into a plate, then the water won't be in it anymore. Of course, what you probably mean by most people is actually my audience of thick wankers. Can't even figure out a basic concept without it explained to them over and over and over again, and they still won't even get it.
3/4 of the Earth's surface is still covered with water.
Right, yeah, that's how land masses work. If they weren't not covered in water, then this would be like an ocean planet. It's not, so it isn't. Also, still as opposed to what? Oh, right, flood. And that's what it would have been beforehand. I mean, surely someone might have noticed if there was vastly more, or I guess vastly less, water in the before flood times. Or someone might have mentioned it. Or God might have fucking mentioned it. It's so strange that he didn't seem to know dick all about his alleged creation.
And there are low parts like the Marianas Trench.
Oh, there are a lot more lower points than that. I mean, there's answers in Genesis, there's answers in Genesis Canada, there's all the other creationists and their various websites and propaganda mills and all the rest. And way above all that, there's still some pretty low points like me. I mean, I am the new low for atheists. Look, it says so right there on my about page. And it's not like people can say things that aren't true on the internet, can they?
There are high parts like Mount Everest, and of course we live on the high parts.
High, low, whatever, it's just a fact that we live in the worst part. I mean, think about it. More than likely right now, you will be sat within just a few mere meters of a disgusting piece of verminous filth. That's right. If you didn't know, in many towns and cities, there could be a Who-Man right next to you and you wouldn't even know it. Worst of all, you might even be one yourself. Dun dun dun.
Do you know who confirmed this?
God, right? You know, like how he confirmed the kangaroos and the bald eagles and the polar bears and all the other animals that are totally in the Bible that he knew about, because he made them, and they all traveled the ridiculously long distance to get on the ark that was definitely big enough for the lot of them. Yeah?
The famous undersea explorer, the late Jacques Cousteau.
All I ever knew about that guy is that he has the reddest hat that ever existed. I mean, seriously, look at that thing. If it were any more redderer, I'm pretty sure that it would catch fire. He also apparently co-invented the aqualung, so he was obviously a completely mad bastard. I mean, seriously, who looks out at the ocean and thinks, you know what, that's all well and good, but what it really needs is humans under it, and not even dead ones. It's madness.
Were the crust of the earth to be leveled, with great mountain ranges like the Himalayas and ocean abysses like the Mariana Trench evened out, no land at all would be shown above the surface of the sea.
No fucking shit, Sherlock. I mean, seriously, am I the only person who didn't need it explained to them that there's nothing sticking up, then it's all going to be underwater? I mean, look, if you have a circle, then there's nothing to stick up above the water. If there are pointy or raised/lowered bits at least, then the water pools in the lowered bits. I feel like I'm going crazy that anyone would actually need this explained to them.
Earth would be covered by a uniform sheet of water more than 10,000 feet deep. So overwhelming the ocean seems to be.
It has nothing to do with how deep the water is. You could have a fraction of the water on the planet, and if it were a perfect sphere, and obviously ignoring the things like moon gravity and the way the Earth's spin makes it an oblate spheroid, it would absolutely still be covered with significantly less water. In fact, it would take a shitload of water, because I couldn't confirm my calculations before putting this video up. But it's a lot less than the water that's currently on the planet, is my point. To have a millimeter of water planet-wide, at least if my math isn't wildly fucking off. But it would still, in a very literal sense, be covered in water.
Simply put, the water from the flood is still in the oceans and seas we see today.
What? That makes no fucking sense. There would have to be more to cover the Earth. The trenches and peaks were very much still around at the time. So in order to cover them, there would have to be something like 3 times the water that there currently is. Hundreds of cubic miles of goddamn extra water. That cannot possibly still be here. Unless you think, oh fuck, I just realised what he's going to say. Why? Why do you always have to be dumber than the last dumbest thing I heard from you? Every time. What, is it like a competition with you people? Fuck me.
And the majority of geologists observe.
Oh god, here we go. Every time this fucker says something about a group of scientists, it is either completely fine and not worthy of any note whatsoever, or something completely insane that no one with a brain would ever say. There is no in between with this guy.
It does appear that the continents were at one time all together and not separated by the vast oceans of today.
Oh, phew, it was a normal thing. Wait a fucking second. I thought you guys didn't believe in Pangea. I could be wrong, but I also wouldn't be surprised by the fact that you guys often take something that is real science and pretend that it was part of your worldview all along, even though it is for some reason never fucking mentioned in the Bible. You think God would have known that there was a supercontinent. Not to mention, apparently it's like one of about 6 times there could have been supercontinents. So did all of these happen in the 6,000 years we have been around? According to creationism, you think we might have noticed as the continents zoom around like fucking go-karts. Because seriously, I did a bit of bad maths, and if I didn't completely fuck it up, the continent should be moving at about 5 meters a day. I feel like someone might have noticed.
So there are very good reasons to believe these features likely formed during or since the Great Deluge.
No, there fucking isn't. No, just because your book says there was a flood, that's not proof of shit other than that's a thing that your book says. You have to prove these things, and not only does the idea that they formed during the flood stretch credulity so thin that you could use it to cut fucking quarks, but to think that it happened since, that changes that take millions of goddamn years? No, actually, it happened in the last 4,000. It's just some of the most ridiculous shit I've ever fucking heard.
And that the Earth during Noah's pre-flood day didn't have the high mountains or deep ocean trenches of today.
Citation fucking needed, asshole. A, geologically speaking, there's no fucking evidence that that's the case. In fact, there absolutely has been all of those features since basically forever ago. And B, I would like to hear the part of the Bible where the earth was basically a big smooth sphere with maybe some slight bumps on it for land. I have a sneaking suspicion that's not the case. Otherwise, you might have bought it up a million years ago instead of trying to justify the fact that for some reason it really sounds like the Bible is a load of bollocks. Probably because it, is.
The forces involved in the flood were certainly sufficient to change the planet.
Did you notice that? The flood is not just an idea anymore, it's a fact. According to this MOOC, there are no coulds, only woulds. And sure, if the planet was completely covered in water, it would have changed the planet. But to cause millions of years worth of change in a few measly days, I fucking doubt it, mate. In fact, it's not like we don't have massive chunks of water that we can look at and see how that amount of water affects things around it. And while of course it does do some stuff, it's not slicing through giant land masses in days and sending entire continents just sliding right into one another in like a couple of months or whatever. I mean, even incredibly powerful storms don't do that much in the grand scheme of things. Again, nothing like the changes that happen even come close to the geological scales that we know caused these things. It's almost like the Bible was written by people who had no such understanding of how shit like that would work. Except they didn't even mention that kind of shit, and the people who should know about it are trying to force it in there where it was never meant to be in the first place.
Scripture indicates that God formed the ocean basins, raising the land out of the water so that the floodwaters returned to a safe place.
Scripture indicates, eh? You know what else it indicates? That fucking unicorns and dragons were real. Or that bats are goddamn birds, not mammals. Or that mustard seeds are the smallest seeds, which frankly is a wildly stupid claim to make. Surely they must have had some idea that maybe they might not have seen every fucking seed in the world, but written by morons. So I wouldn't take much from the idea of scripture indicating fucking anything, yeah?
Some theologians believe Psalm 104, 7-9.
Well, then they're fucking morons. Sorry, I didn't even let you get to what you're saying, but come on, believing anything from the Bible, it's never a good call.
May refer to this event, indicating how God ended the flood by raising the mountains and lowering the ocean basins so that the water ran off the earth to form the present oceans.
So all that water from the flood never went fucking anywhere. It's all still here. There's just been an incredible level of tectonic upheaval. The sorts of forces that would make this whole worldwide flood thing look kind of like a bit of a joke, because that's just a bit of water. You're talking about moving the surface of the planet around like it's goddamn Play-Doh. I mean, that would at the very least have caused countless earthquakes and probably more than a few volcanoes. And just a whole whole heap of, what's that stuff called? Alright, evidence that such things had even occurred. That kind of action would be so catastrophic, it would be fucking obvious to have happened. But somehow, they can't seem to find anything like that to have happened. It's almost like it didn't.
Some creation scientists believe this breakup of the continent was part of the mechanism that ultimately caused the flood.
I'll stop you right there, buddy. Creation scientists, I'm sorry, but you can be a creationist, and I'll even begrudgingly admit that you could be a scientist while also being a creationist. It will just be in an unrelated field. But when you try to do science using creationism, all you will ultimately end up being is fucking wrong. That's why they think whatever it is you just said. Yeah, I wasn't really listening. It's part of my mental self-defense system that protects me from a constant barrage of really stupid ideas. It's called being really drunk. You should try it. I think it's pretty great. What do you mean I'm a bad influence? I'm a cartoon knight who argues with idiots. No one should ever do anything I do.
Possibly associated with continental breakup and plate tectonics.
Possibly associated is a super funny way of saying we're just making shit up in a vain attempt to try and make your stupid bullshit match up with actual science somehow. But it never works because we don't actually know how to do anything even approaching real science. Oopsie daisy.
Some have speculated because of Genesis 10:25.
I'll tell you something about doing speculation because of the Bible. It has done absolutely nothing for anyone ever. None of the great scientific discoveries have ever started. Right, so I was reading this big book of bollocks, and then I realised you could cook a meal using radiation. It just doesn't fucking happen.
That the continental break occurred during the time of a man called Peleg.
Well, now I know you're full of shit. The only thing that Pele is known for is kicking balls real good and an advert about erectile dysfunction. I'm not entirely sure if those two things are linked, but...
However, this division is mentioned in the context of the Tower of Babel's language division, where God confused the languages of the whole earth in Genesis 10 and 11.
So in order to prove something that didn't fucking happen, you feel the need to invoke something else that absolutely didn't fucking happen. Yeah, I think that's enough answers in Genesis for today. There's no amount of drunk I could be that could protect me from that level of stupid. At least that doesn't involve passing the fuck out.
Wait, before you go, I have something super important to tell you. It's life or death. It will change everything forever. Nope, wait, it's gone. Oh well, probably wasn't important. But while I have you, don't forget to comment, subscribe and notify. And if you want more of my smexy voice, check out Mrs. Six's channel Spoonstar Stories, where I narrate and voice all the videos, and she does the work. And if you want to support the channel, check out the merch store for cool t-shirts, or check out Patreon, memberships and PayPal to support directly. Finally, follow me on the medias of social to get completely pointless guff and to keep up on the latest releases. Oh, I just remembered what I was going to tell you. Whatever you do, don't touch the